Welcome back to Trending in Education. In fact, welcome back to the Citadel. Dan Strafford, Brandon Jones, Michael Palmer along with you for this Trending in Education Extra. Episode 2 of the final season of Game of Thrones has been watched. We were ready to discuss it. Michael, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting into my bag of lozenges. It's like my bag of tricks, because that's what's going to make me sound so dulcet and mellifluous is the fact that I'm grabbing a couple of just one lozenge actually, but you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, you never want to over lozenge. That's right.
But I mean, my big thoughts, and I know it's still my open, so I don't need to talk about my big thoughts. But like, if Game of Thrones was volleyball,
okay,
season 8 is volleyball. I think episode 1 was bump.
Yep.
Episode 2 was set. And that's setting up for episode 3. So that's my my opening salvo, if you will.
Brandon, how about yourself?
I'm doing great. I loved episode 2. I thought episode 1 was going to have a low ceiling, and I think it did.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2, you can argue about some of the neat and tidiness of it, which we can have that conversation here. But I really liked it. So I'm doing great. We record these on the Monday following the Sunday.
Yeah.
It'll drop later in the week, but I'm still on that like recently post GOT high
afterglow.
I mean it's not even been 12 hours.
No,
it's not even 20. It has been 12 hours.
Well,
it's not even. I haven't even had time to do math. It's not even been 24 hours since the show.
Still fresh.
Yeah, so it's a freshie.
And to Mike's point, the set here really setting up for what is to come, the Battle of Winterfell, and we can talk about that towards the end. Some of the previews we saw and what is expected here. So one line that it's the longest filmed battle in a film or television series ever. So it will be a long one, but we will discuss that later on. Mike, to jump off, it was very much a setting of the scene, right? Getting to know the players again at Winterfell, understanding the sort of interconnectedness of what we have with Jon and Dany, and what we have there with the sisters and Daenerys and all these different moving pieces, along with the other people coming to Winterfell to help try to defend it. Initial thoughts, high-level thoughts on what you really thought or took away from this episode.
I think it was ladies' night. It was a lot of stuff about the ladies of Game of Thrones. So whether it was the Sansa and Dany exchange, which we presaged a little bit. We did talk about, I don't know if there was no betraying of allegiances, but there was a little more tension there. Obviously you got to talk about Arya, making a love connection. So again, spoils abound. So there's some spoilage there, but and then Brienne, really, I mean, Sir Brienne, there's a lot of, elevating and meanwhile the other woman of Westeros who wasn't even given a minute of screen time was still looming over the entire tableau, perhaps only less than the Night King in terms of the sort of off-screen villains. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and even the insertion of a Brienne into kind of like guys' night out before the big battle comes into play. I was very much struck by that. I thought all the narrative action was really revolving around the women of Westeros, and I think there was some intentionality to that. Even the idea of Brienne as becoming a knight, I thought was pretty interesting, and then obviously the implications of that development for all of these different strong female characters we've grown attached to over the years. I think there's a lot to respond to there. And then you got to imagine that's in part because next week it's going to be a lot of battle scenes.
Aaron's going to die.
Yeah.
That's my hot take for episode 3.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right or a right take on episode 2. I thought so I guess the title of the episode is The Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if they were getting a little cute with the KNIGHT and the NIGHT. So
yes.
It was a 24-hour episode, right? Like, or even maybe less.
Yes.
You know, and this is
like game time versus
yeah, and this is a show that, especially in season 7, with all of the like, how fast can Gendry really run? How fast? I've like looked up how fast a raven flies.
Yeah.
And then like what the multiple on that as a dragon flies. Dragonfly fly faster than a raven.
I would imagine.
You have single episodes which cover many thousands of miles and presumably multiple days of waiting for all of that to happen.
There's some space time.
And then you've got episodes like this where you know, the space and the time was really constrained to a really basically a single place in Winterfell, and really basically a 24 or less hour period.
Yep.
And that was the thing that I talked about this a little bit in the previous Citadel episode, but I think Game of Thrones is probably best in its small moments. You know, these feel a little forced in as much as the small moments now are chock full of major characters.
Yeah.
So you have sitting around the fire, you know, you've got Pod, Tyrion, Jaime, Davos, Tormund, Brienne.
Yes.
That might be it, but you've got like that's a who's who of Westeros.
It's kind of like if episode 1 of season 8 was the high school reunion, episode 2 was the after party to the high school reunion.
Yeah, the Hound even has a line in the episode. He's like, "We might be at a bloody wedding," because of how everybody is there.
Too soon.
There's also probably some too soon. There have been some bloody weddings in this in this show.
The episode did feel like again the set, but a tie back episode where they're calling back to a lot of previous episodes or previous storylines. The Things I Do for Love was a through point of this, and they actually showed the scene of Jaime pushing Bran out the window as he fell. And now when I saw Bran sitting there saying, "I'm waiting for an old friend," or "I'm waiting for whatever he said," and then you have Jaime arrive, was just a great moment in the callback to me. And then for him in Jaime's hearing, or whatever you want to say, in front of the different leaders there, for him to say it, like to say the things we do for love, Bran's so deadpanned. That was how good Game of Thrones can be in tying things together to me, and was just a great through point of it all. As we tie this episode together and understand what's coming to be, we also have the mounting army there for Cersei and what she's piecing together. Do you believe, Brandon, that the storyline is going down a path here of trying to set us up for what happens in episode 3 as the major moment in the series? Or do you see this as a longer play, that this is not the major battle, there's more battles to happen after this one?
Yeah, that's like the big question, I think, right? So I have no... I mean, I'm as much a fanboy as anybody, so I've read all of the theories on all of the places and spend maybe an inordinate amount of time in my own head thinking about this, but I have no real insight here. But what I would say is I think that it's going to have to, the resolution is going to have to be human on human to the whole show, right? So I guess you could go like real wacky and have the Night King win everything, right? That seems like that'd be such a bold choice. It would feel unsatisfying to me, because we've spent so long and in such great depth with all of these really interesting three-dimensionalized characters who, you know, can convey 69 episodes worth of meaning in a single look now, right? Like the knowing exchange of glances between two people like carries a ton of words behind them. To have that all resolved by like the MacGuffin that is the Night King, seems like that will be unsatisfactory.
If the Game of Thrones were like a game that I could play, if the outcome were the Night King wins, I would play it again to achieve another outcome. I'd be like, I got gypped by that outcome. I lost.
Like
let me play again.
If I would be like, if this were Bandersnatchy, I would be definitely going back to a previous decision point.
Yes, I think it's also probably true around Cersei winning too. So I feel like those two are probably, you'd have to do some pretty clever end game to allow either the Night King or Cersei to be the the unanimous, indisputable champion of the game, that would be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right.
I think it's highly improbable.
Yeah. So I think that's right. So I think that my take is that in episode 3, much of the threat of the army of the dead gets resolved.
Right.
I don't know if you kill the Night King in episode 3 because that wipes like the big baddie off the table.
Yeah.
I don't know how you resolve it without doing that, but either he's going to be resolved in episode 3 or not.
Right.
And if not, I still think there's going to have to be some resolution before the final.
Yeah, I've been trying to analogize this to the NBA playoffs because it's NBA playoff season and it's zeitgeisty to do so. But like the idea that there's a trap game in here, I just don't know which game is the trap game. So like, if the Night King, like I don't think anybody's snoozing on the Night King
right.
Yeah. So like they're bringing all that planning, the war room plan action, nice little tableau. Okay. Oh, hey, have Theon. What could possibly go wrong having Theon defend?
That's
Bran, right.
Yeah.
That's just gotta be. That's a winning play. Excellent. Thank you for volunteering. But that to me makes game next the trap game. So like you basically marshal too much of your forces, you're decimated or quadrupinated. I don't know, whatever.
More than 10%.
You get beat pretty. You win. It's like a Pyrrhic victory. You kind of kill the boss level. Night King's dead, but like you barely have an army left, and then like that's where Cersei and Euron are coming in. They're like, y'all play in the semifinals. We'll meet the battered quote unquote victor in the finals. It's not a bad. I mean, I would say if you were like Vegas right now, there's probably some good action on Cersei.
Yeah, I think there is,
because like the Golden Company untouched, coming in to clean up whoever wins. Like they kind of don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it just sees episode 3 feels early to resolve the Night King entirely.
Right. I think so. He's too good a villain to just go like that.
Yeah, because we're I guess his motives are now, as revealed by Bran, that he's after Bran so that he can have an endless night because he's come after so many countless three-eyed ravens in the past. I guess and I don't know. I feel like there's going to have to be some not resolved in episode 3 component to that.
Right. And by the way, could Bran be more emo? I mean, like he's a pretty emo kid.
He's like apparent. It's like
drama. Granted,
so Game of Thrones, super memey,
right? Yes,
super memeable, and he is risen to the top of the meme ranks like overnight in a single season. It's really incredible. He couldn't be more emo.
Oh my god, it's entertaining though. Yeah.
A ton of plot points that I wanted to touch on with you both, Mike. I saw that obviously Cersei invited Euron, right? His name into her bedroom. We have heard from Jaime that she was in fact pregnant.
Right.
Do you believe this to be a play to get Jaime out of her life and to say Euron is in fact the father of this hopeful prince that she has before her?
You think we're going to get a special appearance by Maury Povich on episode 6?
I like it.
Euron, you are not the father. I don't know, man. Like that was a little bit episode 1, Dan. I know you were at Universal.
I'm mixing them. I apologize.
Yeah, it's all right. Episode 1, there was action between.
I binged them.
There was action between Euron and Cersei, and makes sense if that is a cover for the baby.
Because Jaime does talk about it in episode 2, saying
Correct.
The baby is in fact so.
And also, Bran is hanging some swords over Jaime's heads. You know, like there's stuff that you're trying to. You think you can keep this stuff from the rest of these characters, but the three-eyed raven sees everything. And I also thought I did enjoy the meeting between Jaime and Bran. It felt shorter than I would have liked, but it did feel like there was the whole idea of, like, you know, Dan, you're kind of touching on it, like breaking the wheel. Like there's a lot of wheel action in this season where like you're kind of replaying early components of the story again, and then the question is, you know, how does the wheel get broken? Like, how do we not continue to play the same story over and over again?
And even within that, on that same theme, the Jamie says to Bran, "I'm not the same person I was when I pushed you out that window," and Bran says, "Had you not pushed me out that window, you would have been."
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's interesting to think about the workings of the wheel, like how much of what happened is actually connected to what happens,
Right.
and I think that's true in life too, right? Is that there's sometimes unexpected causes for effects that you see later,
Right.
Like, did his transformation into a redeemed person, if you take on face that Jamie is, did that start with that act of of real evil, of pushing Bran out the window? It's
Right.
interesting to think about.
Definitely.
So much interplay in that fire scene, and then the song by Podrick at the end and you knew the pan to the faces of the people who were about to go off to battle was coming next. I guess Jenny's song does appear in one of the books and was taken. The first stanza of lyrics was taken, and then they wrote out more. But feelings from that song, from that final set of scenes, Brandon, and as we return towards the Battle of Winterfell, we know it's coming. We've seen, as I said earlier, it's going to be the longest screen battle in movie or TV history. Thoughts as the episode came to an end? Obviously, we can tie in any other thoughts about the episode, but as they panned to the different faces and prepared us for episode number 3.
Yeah, first, Pod has a nice singing voice.
Oh, it's delightful.
Yeah.
Not a dry eye in the house.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And then when it panned to outside of the room, it was, I guess, Florence the Machine, who that was there. That was actually the band that was singing the song afterwards. So Jenny and her ghosts, right? So I feel like we're seeing a lot of future ghosts there.
And we did see ghosts.
We did see ghosts, although I will say maybe the most unbelievable part of that entire episode was how Ghost just shows up without, like, he's on stage right.
Yeah. It was almost like CGI afterthought.
Right, but with no one's like, "Oh, hey, Ghost."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
John hasn't seen him in 2 years, 2 seasons. Like,
right.
"Hey, what's up, dog?"
Yeah.
There's none of that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the list of people who aren't going to make it out of episode 3 is long. I think you saw a lot of them. So I would think Grey Worm.
Oh, definitely. They made future plans.
Maybe?
Tormund, I think it could go either way.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, he's although he's become only comic relief.
Like, oh my god, but he's good comic relief. But there's nothing but comic relief.
Yeah, he lost the dimension from his character somewhere along the way. And Jorah, I think definitely is not going to make it.
I like the Jorah and
the Mormont. So Jorah and Lyanna Mormont. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And some number of, I think, Pod and Davos and Brienne. I think Brienne doesn't make it through episode 3.
Seems like not. I mean, she was knighted
right. There's a lot of Brienne in that. Yeah, she's going to be in the front line. And the front line is the worst part of the lines to be in when you're facing 100,000 dead people.
Right. Although, I was thinking about this. The Army of the Dead is coming. So you send the women and children to the crypt?
Right.
I mean, like that, is it just me or is that just a bad idea? That seems like a bad idea.
You know what you want to send them is to the mess hall.
Yeah.
The dead don't eat.
Dead don't eat.
No, that's the safest place.
Hashtag dead don't eat.
Hashtag dead don't eat. Yeah. So I think that it's going to be like, that was definitely setting up. And there've been, like, there was the Bronn singing the Rains of Castamere in the brothel before the Battle of Blackwater. There's been there's going outside of Game of Thrones. There's the and I'm gonna forget if it's Merry or Pippin singing the song in Lord of the Rings.
There's baseball. There's walk-up music.
Yeah.
In the NBA, there's whatever you have in your ears when you're pregame. The battle's about to come. You gotta get in your head.
But this specific, like, the sort of sorrowful, like somber,
a little dirgy,
as being premonition of deaths to come. I think we're going to get a bunch. I would say I put the over under on major characters at probably 5.5 for episode 3.
That's not a dig at Tyrion, right?
That is not.
Okay.
I think it's I think probably if I were betting, I'd take the over, and I'm counting, like, Grey Worm counts as a major character.
They all kind of count, right? At this point.
But I would say like if the Serene, reminiscent girl with with the face thing that talks to she doesn't count. So if she gets got.
Yeah, she's got already.
She doesn't count.
Right.
Lots to digest. It was Pippin, by the way, in Lord of the Rings.
Thank you.
Who sang, and that's exactly what I thought when Podrick started singing was what flashed me. And I know one of the comparisons for episode 3 that I've seen is the Battle of Helm's Deep in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is very similar in style and apparently execution, but just longer for this episode.
There was I think that there was an Ed Sheeran resolution from the brothel scene with Bronn in episode 1. They were talking about what happened to the soldiers that were there at the loot train, and Eddie was one of them. The ginger. This is a direct quote from the show. And they said he came back with his face melted off. So, but I think that was an Ed Sheeran reference because Ed Sheeran was in the show as one of the Lannister soldiers singing a little Ed Sheeran song in season 6, maybe.
Right.
Arya sits down with them and shares a little rabbit.
So just knocking them off real quick though, because it's I would say likely to go. I would say Pod probably, Brienne pretty likely.
Yeah.
Tormund probably. Who's his buddy? Who's the
Beric Dondarrion.
Beric is done.
Yeah.
Right.
Dunsky.
I mean, you get to 4 right there.
Yeah.
And
what about
not
Sam?
really talking majors.
I think Pod and Tormund are less.
Maybe.
They're maybes more than probably.
Yeah, they're good. They're good plot device. Good character depth.
Grey Worm,
Grey Worm,
Melisandre or Missandei. Sorry,
yes.
Missandei is talking about her summer home plans.
Right. They're moving to Florida. Yeah.
We've got a place on Narth. I can't wait to get there.
Yeah.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a brutal.
I would probably take the over on 5.5.
Yeah.
Just because also in the unlikely event that the Night King does go down, he's a major character too, right? So he'd be the only him or Viserion on the other side. If either of them go down, does the dragons count?
I wasn't counting. I was saying humanoids.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And how do we think the Jon Snow revelation of birthright and the Gendry bringing up again that he's the bastard son of Robert Baratheon? This is how this is all playing out. Who will sit on the Iron Throne? What do you think is next as we wrap up here, Mike? Do we hear something in episode 3 that gives us more clarity, or do you think this is the final episode? We figure out who exactly has the birthright to the throne at that point.
I think it's going to be muddled. I mean, the way it's shaping up, I don't know who goes down next time. Because if Jon goes down in particular at some point, there's muddled. He's clearly, and how Dany responds to the fact that he's got the clearest path to the throne. But even the fact that House Stark and House Baratheon are getting busy is interesting in that what might come of that. So if you think about the number of expectant women with potential bids for the crown, with also somewhat muddled lineage among their children too. So Cersei's having a baby, who knows what's up with that. Who's the father? This is the Maury Povich episode that's coming. But then you also have whatever is going on with Dany and Jon. Is there a baby? And if there is a baby, that's a very clear bid. But then a couple of underdogs, Arya and Gendry get together. If they had a kid,
it's interesting.
It is interesting because that is sort of the history of Westeros of late is the somewhat outsider grabs the throne in sort of a surprise development. So I think we're thinking about the insiders like Jon and Dany. But there's more the field is getting more interesting now, especially if you count the kids who haven't been born yet.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the interesting an interesting thing for me is the Baratheon versus Targaryen lineage, right? If Gendry were to be legitimized, does Jon really have a stronger claim on the throne? You can call Robert the usurper, but you've been usurped. Like, I think it passes on to someone else. Is it like to say we should go back to the first ever king of Westeros or queen of Westeros,
Right.
king of Westeros,
Right.
and only his lineage can be king? Like,
Right.
that seems like the Targaryens. That's a Valerian house, right?
Mhm.
So they come from
They
Volantis.
claimed it. Yeah.
They claim, so they're
conquered,
the OUs, like
Right.
the original usurpers, right?
Right.
So who's to say?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see where it all goes. I thought the reveal of the Jon lineage was, I thought, really well done in both episode 1 and episode 2. So by having it come at the end of episode 1, we talked about this a little bit on last week's Citadel, but that gets it out, because otherwise it's going to be hanging over
Yes.
the whole show until
Totally.
it comes out.
Yeah.
But it gets it out in a way that you then don't have to spend the rest of the episode
You're not
dealing
gonna have
with
time
it.
for it. Yeah.
Right. And then that allows you to do like the Jon running away from all of his interactions with Dany for a whole episode
Right.
until the very end. And you don't need to have the resolution at the end. I thought the knowing look of Jon to Dany at the end was, let's go get on our dragons.
Yeah.
Right. Like that seemed to be what that look was.
Right.
So like they're going to go off and have a little dragon ride
Right.
instead of having like, we need to, honey, when we come back, like we need to have a talk. Like that's, they don't have to have that right then. I think that's really interesting.
Oh my God. And then like it's setting up the episode 3's got to be awesome. Like that's the whole bump set spike. Like if it's bump set flub or bump set, you can't bump again in volleyball.
No,
there's you can't bump set bump spike.
Right. Yeah.
That's not
you
part
only
of the
get
game.
3 touches.
So it's third touch. Game of Thrones showrunners. I do think they set it up, and I another short episode.
56 minutes.
Yeah. So like they're talking about like, but like they're holding it all back.
The next one's an hour 20.
The next three
Three of the remaining 4 are an hour 20 or longer. Yeah.
And then is the last one shorter?
Yeah, last one's long. Yeah, it's one. I think episode 5 or episode 4. Episode 4 is another.
Catch your
sub
breath
an hour.
before we bring it again.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I think so. Last thing for me, I think for episode 3, this is a high ceiling, low floor.
Yeah. It's
Episode
volatility.
Yeah. So the fact that we've never seen as long of a battle sequence has never been filmed or aired.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because people don't want that, right? Like, I'm not sure.
Right.
Like, are we really going to be high adrenaline, like on the very, very, very edge of our seats for an hour plus?
Plus, like that
sounds like a bad time,
especially on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, like, do I have my when do I have my espresso? Do I have an espresso at 8:30?
Yeah. Although I was thinking about you again with
Nappuccino.
I was thinking about you with the fire scene, like whether that was like
I did better. Episode 2, I stayed awake for.
Okay.
Episode 1, it was a little.
There's the crackling of the fire.
I have a newborn.
The wine.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Citadel. We release it at the end of each week as we talk about Game of Thrones. We're back with our normal episode on Tuesday for Trending and Education, back with a new Citadel next week and throughout this final season of Game of Thrones. Thanks so much for listening. Back with more next week.